So if a small business could only implement three cybersecurity practices today,
Yep.
which would you recommend? Which would be most critical?
So first thing I would say would be security awareness training. I think that there there are so many tools and things that we have done to harden the endpoints that
Yeah.
for the most it is a challenge for a threat actor to get onto an endpoint. Like back in the day, our team, Kyle, et cetera, used to do, these live hacking demos to show how to live hack a machine. And like by early 2020, 2022, they're like, yeah.
I'm Chris Engler with Engler IT. You're listening to the Cyber Brisket podcast. We specialize in IT and cybersecurity with over 25 years of experience and a team at the forefront of innovation. Our guests let us know what's hot in IT and how to keep your business from getting cooked. This for 17 years.
Yeah, and I really love like the reason I started as a sales engineer at Huntress, where you kind of help sell the product, and Huntress created this technical account management team, and my manager was like, "Hey, we want you to lead it." And I was like, "I don't know what a technical account manager does," and he's like, "It talks to partners about how to help them secure their clients, and how to help teach their clients best practices and operational maturity." And I was like, oh, all the fun stuff that I do? And he's like, yes, all the things that you think are fun. And so, like, having these conversations with you, Chris, to help educate your clients and your partners about cybersecurity and the things they need to be paying attention to, it's the best parts of my day. So
So
excited to be here.
what happened 17 what terrible thing happened to you 17 years ago to make you want to choose computers
Uh,
as a line of work?
So the terrible thing for me was it started actually a little bit before then, but I was a graduate student and was studying ancient Mediterranean history, like ancient Greece and Rome. And we had one child at the time. My wife was working, and she looked at me and she's like, "How are you going to help support the family as well?" And I'm like, "Oh, I can't just be a student as well." And I started asking around on campus. I was like, "Hey, does anybody, what's a job?" And somebody's like, "What do you know about computers?" I was like, "Well, I know enough to break them." And literally, he was like, "Super, I'll teach you, if you're willing to ask questions and break them, I'll teach you how to fix them." And I was like, "Super." So that's what started the journey. And I always just kept it as that mindset of I don't quite know what I'm doing. And so, yeah, 17 years ago, my kids were at an age where my oldest was, starting, or I guess my youngest probably was starting kindergarten at that point. And my wife and I were both looking for full-time jobs. She landed the full-time job, and I had been looking in computer support services. And the MSP I had actually interviewed with, I called the guy up and I was like, you know, Greg, I know you just interviewed me for this position. I need to withdraw. And he's like, "Oh, why? You got a job offer?" Like, "No, actually, my wife just got a job offer, and I can only take a part-time job. You were applying, you were asking for a full-time IT guy." And he's like, "I could use somebody part-time if you're interested." I was like, "Certainly." So that then began the journey on the MSP side. And it's I will say that I love to serve people. I love to help people. It's one of the reasons I'm at Huntress, but it's one of the reasons I was in the MSP side for 17 years. Chris, as you know, nobody stays as an MSP for a long amount of time unless they care deeply about helping people, solve their technology problems. But like, you don't do this necessarily just for the kicks. Like, you
Yeah.
have to have that service.
Yeah,
Um,
I hear you there. So having worked through every role in an MSP over the years, what leadership lessons have stuck with you the most when managing technical teams?
I think the leadership role that has stuck the most is not dictating the outcome to my teams, like trusting that if I ask them the right questions, like we definitely don't want to, do something terminal, right? That was always mine. Like, can we recover from it and not do a terminal action? And I mean, I also did a couple as a tech. I did a couple terminal actions. There was a time we had a client who was out in Spokane, Washington. The MSP I worked for was in Delaware, and I ran a tool that, shoot, I'm blanking on. It was like a software. It was a tool to like clean up the machine. I'm blanking on the tool's name, and I went and tried to pull out .NET framework with this tool. Totally blue screened the woman's machine from across the country, and this would have been like 2007. Like, we didn't have things to do remote anyways. So like, was that terminal? No, but that was pretty close to it. Like, I learned, like, oh, hold on here, do you have backups? How effective are those backups? But like, also, there is power in learning from your mistakes. And so that's why I was like, if I could create environments where my team could learn without it being terminal, that was the key thing. Ask some questions, make sure we're in agreement of what the destination is, and then they could figure it out. I didn't always have the answer on it.
Yeah, I think that's great. I use the same methodology. Even when I know the answer, I never give the answer to my support. So if anyone ever comes to me with a problem, I just ask them the questions.
Yes.
When you ask them questions, you're teaching them how to think and what questions to ask, and then they'll come to you less. If you give them the answer, you'll just do nothing but answer questions all day.
No, and that was definitely the big management change for me. That was the learning thing that I learned. I was like, oh, if I can just ask questions and be like, hey, all right, have you thought about this? Did you do this? Oh, okay, great. Where else do you think you could go with this, Chris?
Yeah.
And be that sounding board. Yes, they started, it's the old adage, right? You teach a man to fish versus fishing for him. Now, there were definitely some days where I was like, I'm just fishing. I don't have time to like teach you how to fish, but for the most part, I went with the let's try and teach them and get them better about it.
Well done. So you mentioned a passion for systems and processes. What's one cybersecurity process you think most companies overlook but shouldn't?
So the process I think most companies overlook is a business continuity plan and their process around there. Many companies have like an incident response plan. They might have some ideas around backup restoration, but they really haven't thought about it from a holistic framework of what are the critical system or systems we need to have up and running to keep making some money. Like a business, at the end of the day, no matter how much you love your business, it is about making money, right? If we say, okay, that's the key thing, then in my opinion, that BCP, that business continuity plan, really is critical to say, all right, how do we get it up to like 80%? Maybe it's not going to be running at 100%, but if we can get it up to X point, we know we buy ourselves time, if you will, right? And that's the part I think many businesses don't think about. And like, I see this and I experienced this when I was on the MSP side. Somebody was like, well, you just sold me this great, I was just at DattoCon, so I'll say, a Datto BDR, right? You sold me a Datto
Sure.
BDR and you said I would be up in an hour. And well, yes, but like if a security incident happens, hold on, yes, we could restore your backups from an hour ago, but have we actually gotten to root cause in that time? Have we done XYZ discovery, right? There's going to be
Yeah.
downtime
What's going
as
to
you're
stop the exact same thing from happening once the restore is made?
exactly. And
Yeah.
what we didn't have, we hadn't talked BCPs with our partners where we were like, hey, we actually might need to be longer than that, device could get us up and running. But like, and here's the reasons why, but tell us what's your priority so we can focus on it. And once we started to have those conversations and understand it, like it made my customers happier because now they weren't coming to me, Chris, saying, oh my goodness, I'm down. They knew that we knew the key things that need to be running. and that, we could actually work collaboratively together versus well, this happens. You're trying to do business. I understand. You're like, I have people sitting there not able to work, and they are costing me X thousands of dollars a minute, right? And
Yeah.
that's
And how much time have we put towards considering that this might happen? And when you have a plan in place, well, first off, there's the process of going through making the plan.
yeah,
You're doing your business continuity. The business continuity plan forces you to do an incident response plan. Also forces you to do like a business impact analysis. So you think about all the key activities that are going on inside the business, what they are, what we can tolerate, what we should expect when they're impacted, that kind of thing. And then when you get into these chaotic situations where there is a breach or there is a disaster, and you have this document and you have this premeditated framework that gives ground to an otherwise completely chaotic situation.
yes, exactly. And that is it exactly. Like, it is so critical to understand all this. And like the example I give, honestly, and this is where businesses at times think they think you, Chris, they thought me at my MSPs, we knew that because we were servicing them all the time, they start to make assumptions that they must know what's critical in our business and how we make money, right? And so
Yeah.
we had a partner of ours who was, they did truck leasing, but they also had as part of that truck leasing, that was what we knew them as, is this truck leasing business. But they also had a commercial garage with that. And where they actually made all of their money was those guys, on the shop floor. And what we realized was like, oh, what we had to make sure was up was the Wi-Fi with multiple redundant internet access, because and their iPads that they were had all their shop diagrams on, etc., because they had a cloud service that they were doing their time and billing, parts into. And we thought that like their key thing was this leasing program that was an on-premise, and we were like, oh, we're going
Mm.
to spend X thousands of dollars to keep this up. And it wasn't until we had those business conversations that impact that they're like, no, like if that shop goes down, we start to lose thousands of dollars an hour. And it was like, oh, pivot. And we had ability to put in some very inexpensive technologies to make sure that they would basically be up. Nobody's up 24/7, but you get the idea.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, it pays just to have like a 1% deeper conversation with your clients, and
Yes.
like what comes out of that is huge.
Yeah.
So you've helped many partners secure their environments. What's a recent success story or learning moment that really stood out to you?
So this is something I didn't quite get when I was on the MSP side. I'll be totally honest. And I honestly didn't even get it when I started at working at Huntress, which was the importance of SIM. And where I'm going with this is the importance of locking down, of making sure that networks that have VPNs in particular, so virtual private networks, for those of who's listening to this who are like, what's a VPN? The importance of putting a VPN into a SIM solution, because yes, I knew that we were a Sonic Wall shop, that our Sonic Walls logs would roll off pretty quickly because those appliances are not designed for keeping logs. And now
Yeah, a
as
lot
we
of
have
times you just remove the power and all the logs are gone.
exactly. And so like what SIM seeing the correlation with SIM with EDR, where our SOC can ingest those logs, especially from a VPN, and say, here is where a threat actor has gotten in and compromised an environment, and they can pivot over to that SIM source, look at that and say, oh, it was Nicole's user account that was compromised. And now we don't have to guess, oh, who was getting compromised, right? Because threat actors, and this is part of just the trends we're seeing, but threat actors we are seeing are pivoting more and more to attacking VPNs because COVID happened. We deployed, I mean, at my MSP, boy, like we were selling VPN licensing to Sonic Walls and VPN appliances like it was going out of style for those first year. what we weren't doing, to be honest, at first, we weren't always putting MFA on. And so the threat actors are now like, oh, let's go back and see where we can attack with MFA, with MFA fatigue, all sorts of techniques. But SIEM just gives it that ability to process those logs and see the detections. And so we're also at Huntress with our SIEM solution, we're seeing on average, like, and the way we get this is we look at events where there is an EDR without a SIEM. And then in those environments where a SIEM would have been helpful, usually SIEM would have detected like 30 minutes before on average. Sometimes it's a day, because there are some things that a threat actor will do that will just only show up in your logs, such as just authenticate, or maybe they authenticate after through a brute force. EDR is looking at the processes running on a machine. It's not designed to look at, the logs itself. And so that probably
like unsuccessful actions.
Exactly. So that was really the aha opening for me of like, oh, why do you want, a SIEM solution? Yes, I knew it for compliance, right? You need to keep logs because you're under some sort of CMMC compliance, or you're doing a CIS framework, something like that. But really to see how it can be used effectively, especially as I said with VPNs, like I advise partners all the time, and even end clients, like, yes, it'd be great if you use the Huntress SIEM solution, but please if you have a VPN out there, please put it on a SIEM, because that is going to help you down the line.
Great. So, one thing I don't understand is what makes Huntress different. Now, I mean, I love you guys. I work with you guys a lot in a lot of different situations, but I'm not really 100% sure like where the magic is. Like, what sets you guys apart from the rest of the folks in the industry?
I think there are two things that set us apart, to be honest. One is the fact that we own our technology, and that our SOC team is linked so tightly into that technology. And so what that means is that we can pivot very quickly. So those frontline SOC analysts who are at Huntress, for those who don't know, we have a 24/7 SOC that follow the sun staffing model. We have Huntress team members in the US, Australia, UK, Ireland is where everybody is located. And we intentionally chose those locations, and will continue to be in those locales. And those teams will see something, and if it's new tradecraft, they're able to basically reach out directly to our detection engineering team. So we have a very cool team at Huntress. It's called the Death Team, Detection Engineering Threat Hunting Team. They're able to say, hey, Death Team, I just saw this thing go on. It looks abnormal, and I think we have some new tradecraft happening. We should dive in deeper. That team can dive in, say, oh, yeah, this is new tradecraft. Oh, we're seeing it actually across multiple of our partners. That's the threat hunting, where we go and look across all 4 million plus endpoints, or into 7 million identities. And they're able to say, oh, yeah, let's bake now a new detection in based on this tradecraft that we are seeing. That makes us very nimble. We just like many of the big names in it, have names known in the industry. I mean, for casual observers, probably John Hammond, who works for us with his 2 million, YouTube followers, is somebody who's well known for educating. But we have, people who are very well respected in the industry. I think SANS Institute just had a user poll, if you will, where they were recognizing people in the industry, and we had 4 of our employees called out specifically for the work they have done in cybersecurity that were in the running for recognition. And so having great researchers helps tremendously, but having a system that we can quickly adapt and pivot around, that's one of it. And then honestly, the dedication that our teams have of protecting all businesses is incredible. Like, if you've ever met our CEO, Kyle, he's always been passionate about, providing cybersecurity. He doesn't want there to be a quote unquote poverty line of cybersecurity. He wants to be able to protect all sides of the business, regardless of budget, is kind of his mantra of what he would like to get to. And that ethos is deep within the company, where we will have, SOC analysts who will reach out to people directly and be like, at Huntress, and be like, hey, this particular partner, we need to reach out to them. We've sent 3 different reports to them. They keep, just clicking the button. They're not getting the root cause. We think XYZ is going. Could you call them and do it out of bounds of our reporting? Or a partner, one of the cool things, every time a incident is rejected at Huntress, that goes back to the SOC analyst, because we have a very low rejection rate. It's less than 1%. I think it's 0.7%. It was the last number I saw. But they look at it because at times partners will accidentally reject a thing thinking that, oh no, this was legitimate. One of the ones we see threat actors do is they will create like fake QuickBook updaters, because I'm sure, Chris, talked about the importance of updating your software. And the threat actors will compromise websites and then will like do pop-up messages and like, oh, it looks like your QuickBooks is out of date. And the user's going to go, oh, Chris has told me to update. I'll click it, right? And
Sure.
Because the threat actors are preying on all sorts of things from a social engineering, but like we'll see that, and then the partner's like, oh no, I talked to Chris. He got an alert that there was a QuickBooks update, and we're like, yes, he did get an alert, but it's not the real QuickBooks. It's this, and so having that dedication to look at that and make sure and protect it is like outside of the MSP space. Many of the people in the MSP care that passionately. I have not seen that level of care, and that goes throughout the company on it.
Yeah, I've definitely gotten some phone calls from your teams before, and super helpful guys.
Yes.
Are you guys leveraging AI at all in protecting us?
So we are not in our product per se. And what do I mean by that? Is that we totally see the value of the human. So we are using, automation where we can, but it's not necessarily AI to make some things happen faster. But where we are leveraging it is for our SOC, and what we're calling it is SOC assisted AI, which is when that SOC analyst gets alerts, we now are using some products that they are able to drop in to those large language models, you know, what they are seeing, and it will help guide them. Oh, hey, let's elevate, if you will, that SOC 1 analyst skill set so that they go check out these log sources. This attack traditionally has been also over here. So we are using AI in our SOC. We're equipping them with those tools so that they can be more efficient at what they do, because we feel that, that is, if you can take that human who won't hallucinate and arm them with tools that can help them, identify root cause faster, it's going to get to a better security outcome. But we just don't want to kind of quote unquote run amok, if you will.
Yeah. Yeah. Speed is everything. I hear what you're saying. And having the human touch is huge.
Yeah.
Especially in a time when there's a lot of people that are trying to weed it out or eliminate it. And there's so many situations where it's needed.
Yes, exactly. And so we don't ever see a time when we are going to get rid of the humans in our loop. We feel that they are key to our success.
So if a small business could only implement 3 cybersecurity practices today,
yep,
which would you recommend? Which would be most critical?
So first thing I would say would be security awareness training. I think that there are so many tools and things that we have done to harden the endpoints that for the most, it is a challenge for a threat actor to get onto an endpoint. Like back in the day, our team, Kyle, et cetera, used to do, these live hacking demos to show how to live hack a machine. And like by early 2020, 2022, they're like, yeah, these we just can't do. It's getting that because of just the built-in mechanisms Windows has done, etc. The AVs to have protected. We've gotten good. Like it's still not perfect, but we've gotten good at hardening those. Security awareness training, your people are a huge target at the end of the day, and they can get tricked to install a piece of malware that runs at permissions. They can be tricked to put on an RMM because they think a remote monitoring tool, a remote access tool, because they think they are dealing with somebody from Microsoft or what have you, right? So like security awareness training would be one. I strongly believe that a managed EDR is now a key thing you need to have. And why manage? Because it's that 24/7 visibility. The threat actors are doing a business. If you're not aware of this, it is, I think $13 billion was last year's number. I don't have the number right in front of me, and I'll probably have misquoted, but like it's a huge number of what has been reported to the FBI. And uh, they are operating all the time. And so EDR is going to catch the things that your next generation AV potentially misses because we're looking for patterns of attack. And having that management component means that our team could isolate a host in the middle of the night or a whole organization if necessary. And so they can shut down that threat actor regardless of the time. So I'd say that would be second. Third, I would say MFA on everything. And like MFA is not a silver bullet. There are ways that threat actors can bypass it, but like I talked about VPNs not having it. Huntress, we protect identities in 365. I think the latest number I saw was about 2/3 of them have MFA enabled on those identities, but that still means about a third, somewhere to a quarter to a third, don't have MFA on their accounts. And that's just asking for threat actors to brute force, which they can do with compute power very easily of like dictionary attacks until they break in. So like MFA becomes key. So those would be the three.
Yeah, I remember attending a Microsoft event not that long ago where they were talking about the number of password attempts that they get every minute, and I'm pretty sure it was something like 5,000.
Yeah. And it's crazy because they can also throttle their brute force attacks if they think that they're going to get locked out too fast. Like they will do all sorts of things to try and work around the limits that get imposed to it. So yeah, it is crazy.
All right, so we got MFA, we've got the identity protection in Microsoft 365. We've got EDR on the endpoint. We got security awareness training, and that's all stuff for just the current landscape. As someone with as much experience as you have, what do you see in the near future for us as far as what does the landscape look like and what tools will be needed to help us protect ourselves?
So I think where the landscape is definitely changing is how the threat actors are starting to adopt AI for their attacks, right? And in particular, what is going to become more and more important is to set up what I'll call out of bounds policy, where you use policy to defeat the threat actor. The best example is I get an email from Chris saying, "Hey, Ethan, we just changed banks. We now need to send your invoices to this new banking thing." Instead of trusting Chris that I am actually communicating to Chris, now I need to have a policy that I call Chris up and I say, "Hey, Chris," and I don't call off if you have questions, Chris says, "Call me at, this number."
Yeah.
I actually, go have Chris's number. I verify it some other way. I call him and I say, "Hey,
Yes.
Chris, I got this email from you. Is this super?" Like,
Perfect.
because where the quote unquote deep fakes is going is, and the AI usage of AI to make convincing phishing lures, convincing attacks for that social engineering is incredible. We have seen at Huntress where a user was convinced to join a fake Zoom meeting and thought she was interacting with other people from her company. They were a crypto company, and it was actually threat actors who, you know, they tried to share a file with her. She couldn't get it. They were like, "Oh, you have to update your Zoom client," and it installed malware on her machine to like do info stealing and try and grab the crypto stuff. But she was like, "No, it was their voices. It was their video." She was convinced she was talking to them, and so
Wow.
that's where the technology is going to go, and that's where I'm like, I think we're going to have to come up with policies and things where major changes are discussed, that you go, hey, do are you who you say you are? How do I verify it, right? And from the MSP side, I could see that's ways where you're probably thinking about, how do I actually do callbacks on key things, so that, if Nicole calls in and says, "Hey, it's Nicole, I need to change my password," you might have to start telling your clients, "Super, Nicole, we're going to have to call you back at a known number. If you're not at this known number, we're going to have to come up with another thing." Like, there's going to have to be
Yeah.
changes of our behaviors as humans that we're used to fast. But this is where people will get upset at security, but security is about keeping us secure. So it does not always mean that it is fast. And this is where that business risk conversation comes in. That's so key to understand. What is that risk mitigation about? And the other part, just in that risk mitigation, is to realize that small companies are bigger targets, honestly, than large enterprises, because the threat actors know that smaller companies don't have the budget, that they know an enterprise probably has put in place
Or at
processes
least
and
you'd hope they
procedures.
did.
Yes, but we
To,
have also seen where
so
they
you,
haven't,
yeah,
right?
like what they did in Vegas with
Exactly,
Caesars. Oh my
exactly.
gosh.
Yes. But like, and so that is where, but this is that social engineering part is, and AI helps with that social engineering, because it can help them with prompts. It can help them get the right message, the right feel. They can do things. We wrote up a blog, I don't know, it was about a month ago, where a threat actor installed Huntress onto his machine. It happens. They try and understand what we were doing, but we realized it was a threat actor because we saw some malware on the machine. Our team started to investigate, and then we realized that the host name that it was actually one in a database we track of known malicious machines, and we're like, this seems like the bad guy, and it was. And this person had seen a Huntress ad through a Google search when they were looking for top EDR vendors or something. They installed us. We ended their trial after like a very short amount of time, but one of the things we did is we pulled event logs off of that machine, and then we started to forensically look at what that person had been doing. And we were able to see through Chrome browser history, et cetera, that they had been going to like banking sites, and then using Google Translate, and then doing AI to make workflows to like try and communicate with people. And so that's it's going to go to a more automated system for the attackers, and this is where they're going to try and trick us through social engineering. But that policy, quote unquote, out of bounds communications helps slow it down and cause the problems for them.
Good stuff. Thank you, Ethan. Really appreciate you taking your time today.
Yeah, you're welcome.
You're listening to the Cyber Brisket Podcast. What's hot in IT and how to keep your business from getting cooked.